about 3-4 weeks away from our live lead-in to the Tennessee-Syracuse game right here on WATE. Okay. Fall camp got underway this week, as I said. I want to start, look, we could just do open observations, but everybody's talking quarterback. Let's start. Ollie and Daniel, you guys were over there yesterday. The initial word, the media was in for a very early part. They let the media see the stretching and a couple of short routes, and then they throw them out. And the word from the media, not good yesterday for the quarterbacks or the receivers. The receivers supposedly were just dropping balls all over the place. The quarterbacks were still a little scattershot on top of it, but a lot of the issues were the receivers first. Do you agree with that, Ryan? You were there?
I would say that's fair.
Okay. Ollie, Daniel, did it get any better?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, throughout the practice, watching the team settings, I didn't see much of an issue between at least the communication connection between whichever quarterback and wide receiver was in there. And I also, I want to say they're doing a good job so far with what I perceive of what this quarterback battle is. It's something we talked about on the digital network of having that perceived fairness of this is an actual quarterback battle. And I saw that yesterday. Ones would come out first time, there's Aguilar. Then the ones would come out again, there's Merklinger. So they're giving them both ample opportunities, and that's what I like, because you want to see them get with the best talent in there to see what they can really do, and that's what they were doing yesterday. So not everything's always going to look, I think, as clean as polished as you want to, because there are moving parts within it. But, I mean, for what all I observed yesterday, it looked like it continued to get better, and there was at least communication and connection between whichever people were in there.
I had a big question going into that one. And when I was watching it, it just felt like you don't have like that elite playmaker at that position. Like, now, granted, to take the players back for a second, they're trying to install an entire offense in 3 to 5 days, and so they're going to be overwhelmed. They're not going to be able to know all the checks and balances and all that. But it looks like you're at least 1 to 2 years away from having an elite quarterback, which I think this is really maybe Heupel's style right now. Is you're going to win the game with defense. You have a game manager quarterback, which is what these quarterbacks are trying to do.
Does that sound like, let's get your take so far, and then I'm coming to you, Sterling. Okay. Don't wait. Let me get your take on what you've seen and heard so far.
Yeah, I'll say
in
first.
4 days of camp.
Yeah, I was going to say, first of all, I don't think anything that we've seen or heard so far changes a whole lot. They haven't put on full pads yet. There's no scrimmage. They're playing some team periods. We don't see any of that stuff. These guys got to see some of that. But I think to hear they're having a bunch of drops in the early individual periods doesn't mean a whole lot. So I think that, it's short routes on air, some guys stinking routes on air, and some of these drops are by guys that aren't going to be playing a lot this season. They had 5 scholarship receivers out there today because Mike Matthews wasn't practicing this morning. So they're shorthanded. You're playing a bunch of different guys, getting people reps. So it's not the end of the world. And I think what they saw yesterday after we were kicked out, probably more indicative. I think they're solid, still a work in progress in multiple areas though, and it's an offense that's probably going to get better throughout the season, especially at wide receiver.
If you dropped balls last year, then I still have concerns if I hear you're dropping balls in practice. So that's muscle memory at this point. Ooh, drops. What a surprise. Okay, so I got to be concerned about that. Sterling, in terms of what you were expecting from this quarterback competition, what we were talking about on that Saturday show, and it's appeared on the digital network before the Saturday show, you went through competitions. You and Andy Kelly, you were the starter, then he was the starter. You went back and forth for a while and all this stuff. In terms of everybody getting a fair shot, how important is that? That even, I think everybody still assumes Aguilar's probably your guy. You paid him, you brought him in from California. But you need to make the team understand, no, it's a fair shot. How important is that?
It's incredibly important, because what you got to do is put the best guy out there that can produce for the team. I mean, sometimes the continuity doesn't work with certain guys at certain moments. And that's what offense is all about, continuity. I've been preaching this for years. And some things are going to happen that are not going to be as smooth as you want them to be in the beginning. But when the offense starts clicking and you get your quarterback and receivers and your running backs and tight ends all on the same page, you want the guy out there that can produce the most production, get the most points out of that offense, get everybody involved. And I love the fact that we're having a competition with both guys getting abilities and reps with the ones.
There are people out there who still want to see McIntyre be the guy. He's a true freshman. He's not going to be a real part of it. The only way you see McIntyre this season playing is if things go very, very wrong with Aguilar and Merklinger. And that's no knock on McIntyre. It's just he's a true freshman. You've got older guys in front of him, including one you paid to come in. In terms of the practice thing, there are some quarterbacks, and I'm not trying to this coaches would say, oh, no, practice is where you learn everything. Practice is where you know everything. There have been guys at Tennessee who were not as good on the practice field as they were on Saturdays. Josh Dobbs,
And I've seen the opposite too.
Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton. Yeah, and there were guys who looked good in practice. Nathan Peterman went to Florida, had a long NFL career somehow.
Yes.
But Ollie, the Hendon and Joe thing, Joe was better in practice, and they went with Milton, and then Hooker was the better player on the field.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you that. How much – there are a lot of people who say Merklinger is just – he's behind. There were people that looked at him in the spring and said, well, he didn't look good in this, what they called a spring game. It was like half a scrimmage, and it wasn't really. I'm not willing to bury Jake Merklinger yet.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Simply because, put him in a game when it counts, and let's see if the light comes on. It may not. But I continue to hear people say, well, Aguilar's the guy. Merklinger is just not ready. I don't know. There were guys that I've heard weren't ready, and then you put him out there, and he looks pretty ready to me. Is that a possibility with Merklinger or no?
That's a heavy possibility because what people have to respect the fact is that Merklinger has an extra year in this offense. Okay? Now, Aguilar has got more experience in games, but, you got a guy that's in this incredible offense that I just love with more experience there. That keeps him right there with Aguilar. And so my thing is, play the best guy. We got two guys I think that can play.
Ryan, your thoughts?
I think,
Pulling back?
yeah, if Merklinger is going to win the job, it's not going to be with arm talent. I think Aguilar, from what we've seen, I think he has the advantage in arm talent. So, but
Also more athletic.
I think
Agreed?
I think they're both
I think Aguilar's-
athletic enough to make a short run. Neither one of these guys is going to run 30 yards very often. You're not going to see them break a long play with their legs. But they're both good enough athletes, like a lot of quarterbacks these days, to pick up a first down with their legs. So I don't think a huge advantage probably in that area for either one. But Aguilar just kind of carries himself like an experienced quarterback, and he's well built. There's a lot of things about his game that you like and that translate well to this offense. So I think he's got the edge right now. But again, Merklinger's not out of it by any stretch, and the scrimmages will go a long way in determining who wins this job.
We talked about this, and you mentioned this on the thing we talked about the other day. If you were Merklinger and you'd waited your turn, and they go out and get somebody else, you'd be ticked off. You'd use that as motivation.
Absolutely.
Did we see any? What was the relationship between Merklinger and Aguilar? Was there?
I didn't, and so again, it was one day of practice, but I didn't see like the teammate environment between those two. Like you could tell they've got a lot on their mind. They're trying to install this offense so that like until you learn the offense, you can't really do the extra steps like high-fiving my offensive lineman, high-fiving Sterling when he makes a good throw or that type of stuff.
They're drinking through a fire hose right now.
Right now, they're drinking through a fire hose and they're in a tense competition like that. And you wanted to have this like that guy's my enemy. That's the guy I'm competing against. We're fighting for one position on the field, and like. Once you get the offense down, you can step back and start doing the other things and realize you're both working to it. But right now, it's tight.
Well, but I also want to add to that. That's a great point, Daniel. But I want to add to that, too, is that Merklinger and Aguilar, they haven't known each other long. They just met each other a couple of months ago. The battles that I win with Randy Sanders and Andy Kelly, when I was around, we were around each other for a year and a half, 2 years. So, it's hard to be friendly with somebody you just getting to know, and then all of a sudden you're in this type of predicament. Oh, baby, things happen.
You said continuity earlier. I was going to say, if you did a word cloud of Sterling Hinton, there'd be two things: continuity and oh, baby. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I will say, I don't make too much of interview settings generally, but we spoke with Jake Merklinger at the preseason media day before the first practice, and I thought he was a little short in some of his answers about the quarterback competition, and he seems like a guy that, to me, has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Yeah. I think he sees it as, my window was now. I've got Faison Brandon on the way next year. That's only going to make my path harder. This was supposed to be my year with Nico leaving. Now you brought in this guy that it feels like is kind of going to be anointed the guy. He's got a lot to prove. So I think there could be something, maybe not friction, but it's a healthy, competitive spirit that's fueling him this preseason, and that could make things interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'd piggyback off of what Daniel said. I mean, when you look at it, they're still trying to figure out exactly what their job is. So it's hard, like he said, to do that extra stuff of being the leader of the offense that the quarterback needs to be, because you're focusing on getting everything that you got to do exactly right. So you can't necessarily take the time to focus on the full body of work just now. And I mean, it's only 4 days in. That's going to build over the time. But that's probably why you're not seeing as much of that going on as there will be throughout the season.
Yeah, for Merklinger, it's kind of there's, in my opinion, he may be one of these guys that says, no, I'll be happy to hold a clipboard for the next 3 years. But my guess is this is a now or never kind of a thing. Yeah. And if he doesn't win this job, he's not going to be around next year.
Well, there's going to be a competition next year, but it's a lot harder for him to win that job once you've got George McIntyre with a year in the system and Faison Brandon there too.
Exactly. That's why I'm just looking around the college football environment. My guess is Jake Merklinger, if he doesn't win it this year, he'll be somewhere else next year. Just my guess. We'll see.
Well, I was just going to say that I think the decision between 12 and 6 is really what your next segment's about. Are you taking talent or are you taking experience?